Hello guys, so this video is about unions and why I am pro-union. Several things, for example, in my contract that I wouldn't expect from a non-union employer include, number one, I have a genuine pension. None of this TIFSA or RSP or IRA or 401k matching nonsense. Those are just really just savings and personal investment accounts with some tax sheltering. You could gain money, but you can lose money from those too. It's not a guarantee, but rather I have a bona fide, real, defined benefit pension that is separate from contributions that I personally make. Number two, this is a big one. We have some non-union contractors doing the same work that I am. For example, guys, they literally get half the wage, barely above minimum wage, with few benefits, no pension plan at all, just a typical RSP or 401k like savings account. The disparity is grotesque. A union will fight for your piece of the pie, and there's no better example than the fact that I get double the wage and much more benefit than our non-union contractors. Number three, just something simple like this. When you're working overtime and what you're getting paid is the overtime rate regardless of how many hours you've worked. For example, if you're a part-time employee, if you're under 40 hours in a week, let's say you get called in to do an emergency shift for somebody that called out sick, you get paid time and a half overtime for that shift, even if your total for the whole week is under 40 hours. So let's say you worked 24 hours and you had an 8-hour overtime shift. Even though your total for that week is 32 hours under the 40 threshold, 8 hours of that is paid at that negotiated in the contract overtime rate. Non-union workers are very, very unlikely to negotiate that with an employer. Very unlikely. Number four, if a problem arises in your workplace, you have the right to a union representative to be present at any meeting with management. It could be for any reason, no matter how big or small. That third-party witness is a layer of protection you will never get in a non-union job. While it doesn't mean you'll be protected from everything the employer does, we know that's not true. I mean, employers try everything. It's an important power to have so that management and owners don't trample all over your rights at their own discretion. They have to be more professional toward you as a worker. That's a good thing for everyone, including the employer. If you don't agree with something, there is a professional grievance and arbitration process with procedures you simply don't get when you're on your own. Unions provide a basic level of protection that cannot be matched. Number five, there is an openness and an honesty about union work. Our wages are the same for the same work. It's published, it's public knowledge, we vote on it, there's less secrecy, there's a true sense of egalitarianism and camaraderie when you know you're not in a workplace where the guy sitting next to you, across the table from you, isn't getting a different pay because he's canoodling with the manager. Because that is far more rampant in non-union work where there's these huge pay disparities for the same people doing the same work. There's also lots more job security where employees stay with an employer, if you're a union, much longer, giving that employer much better staff that are at the top of their game instead of having to retrain a constant stream of churning employees that aren't satisfied with their work. So there's actually a benefit for the employer too. It's not just the employee that gets that benefit. Now, guys, this list could go on. There are so many points to bring up. But the bottom line is this: if you stand up for your rights, you'll get more. A union's how you do that. We're in an economy where there are owners and then there are workers. The majority of us are workers. Even middle managers are workers. They don't own the business. If you don't stand up for your rights, you won't have them. It is very important for us to educate people that in our economy, there are merely owners and the rest of us. You have to have this class consciousness before you can appreciate how to demand better conditions and union protection. The more people understand the more that we educate, like what I'm trying to do with this video, the better off we will all be. And if you're not part of the business ownership class, or the Wall Street class, whatever you want to call them. And to all these anti-union people out there, you benefit from union work too. Your employers, even if they're non-union, are looking at union jobs. And they say to themselves, look, we need to at least increase our benefits and our wages so we can fend off unionization. And therefore, even non-union workers benefit from unions being present. I remember years ago, I worked in the telecom sector for a major North American cellular provider, who's going to be unnamed, but it was in the US. They had something called union awareness training, and they forced everyone to attend. It was really anti-union activism, and they had everything from HR telling you all the reasons why unions won't benefit you, even though you have a right to the vote, and specific people in the audience would stand up and say why they didn't like unions, as if it was kind of staged. Granted, that was a job I had in the American South, in a so-called right-to-work-for-less state. So I don't think a meeting like that would be allowed here in Ontario, Canada, where I live now, where there's better union laws. But the point remains, I spent years in non-union work, decades in fact, and I have union employment, and I can compare and contrast. I know for me, the type of economy we have, where there's merely owners and workers, there's no better protection than having a union. If you aren't in one, talk with your co-workers, educate them. Even if it seems impossible, educate. See if they would be interested in voting to have union representation. Educate them what the differences are and how you could improve lives with it. That's how this works. Grassroots activism right at home, with the people you live with. We can make our lives better if we just educate and inform. Thank you for watching.